In the last video, I laid out the basic nuts and bolts of the sacrificial system, what a worshiper would do when he offers a sacrifice, what he does with the animal after he's brought it into the courtyard of the tent of meeting. We also talked about the 5 main types of sacrifice. Leviticus gives very little information about why you do all the things that you do. What's the point of laying the hand? What's the point of slaughtering the animal? Why does the blood have to be displayed? What's happening when the animal is put on the altar? In order to understand what's happening, we need to read Leviticus against the background of the previous books of the Bible. We have to look ahead, of course, to later books of the Bible which fill out the understanding of sacrifice. But I think it's particularly helpful to look back and see what's happened previously that's relevant to sacrifice. And we kind of work backwards. And one of the most relevant things that Exodus reveals about sacrifice occurs in the Passover. And every offering is a kind of replication of the Passover. The animal that's offered is a son. It's called a son of the herd. The son of the herd is offered a substitute son, just as the animal was slaughtered at the Passover and its blood displayed as a substitute for the firstborn. The blood is displayed in a normal sacrifice because it's a new Passover and you're spreading out the blood, not just killing the animal, but also spreading out the blood as a prophylactic, as evidence that a death has taken place, to warn off the angel of death so that you're freed from that curse. So the Passover is in the background. You go back a little bit further, you can go back to Genesis 22. Again, we have the offering of a son. Abraham goes up on Mount Moriah. He's ready to offer his son Isaac as a sacrifice as the Lord had commanded. And then there's a substitute for that sacrifice, which is the ram that's caught in the thicket up on Mount Moriah. That's what ultimately is sacrificed. And every time a worshiper offers a sacrifice, that's part of what's happening. He's in Abraham. He's offering his son, but the Lord has graciously offered and provided, as Genesis 22 says, the Lord is the one who provides. He's provided a substitute for the son. You don't have to slaughter your future in order to please God. You slaughter a substitute and your future progeny is dead and risen as Isaac was on Mount Moriah. That happens every time a worshiper offers a sacrifice. We go back further and look at the early chapters of Genesis, and again we see some of the narrative roots of sacrifice. Right at the end of Genesis 3, the last thing we're told in Genesis 3 is the Lord stations cherubim at the gate of the garden to prevent anyone from returning to the garden and taking the tree of life. Those cherubim are equipped with flaming swords, and we learn later in the book of Ezekiel the cherubim are full of eyes. So they're watchmen, they're guardians, and you can't get past them. They don't blink. And even if several of the eyes blink, they still got hundreds of eyes that are watching you. So you can't get back, and they've got flaming swords. The only way to get back into Eden and eat from the tree of life is to pass by the cherubim, which means you're going to have to pass under the sword, you're going to have to pass by fire, you're going to have to be slaughtered, and you're going to have to be burned, which is exactly what sacrifice is. Sacrifice is a gracious means that the Lord has provided so that Israel can approach the Lord through a substitute. The substitute undergoes the death at the hands of the cherubim, and the worshiper is allowed to draw near and to eat and drink in the presence of God. You go a little bit earlier in Genesis 3, and there's another sacrificial image. There's an origin of sacrifice. From the church fathers all the way to Jonathan Edwards and beyond, it's been a staple of commentary in Genesis 3 to say that God offered the first sacrifice. And the way we know that is because he provided animal skins for Adam and Eve. And the presumption is that he didn't just say, let there be animal skins. Rather, an animal was slaughtered and the Lord provided those skins for Adam and Eve. And that sets up an important theme of sacrifice that runs all the way through Leviticus. Sacrifice is a covering. It covers shame so that we can appear in the presence of God. A covering is also a covering of glory that elevates us in the presence of God. So again, as in the procedures of sacrifice, we have both substitutionary death and glorification or transfiguration. That's what the robe implies. And the basic idea of covering is contained in the word kafar, the verb kafar in the Hebrew, which is the word for atone. The idea of atonement is basically covering, and that's what the Lord is doing in Genesis 3. And then if you push back to the time before the fall, I think we have an elaborate type of sacrifice in the creation of Eve. Adam is put to sleep. He's put into a kind of death sleep. His flesh is opened up. He's dismembered, one side of him is taken out, and the Lord takes that side and builds a woman and then brings the woman back, and the woman and the man are united as one flesh. So it's an act of separation, dismemberment, and then reunion and glorification. That's an important background to the sacrificial offerings of the book of Leviticus. And one clue that that's the case is that the word for woman, Isha, has the same consonants as the word for altar portions or bridal food in Leviticus. The word is Isha. The vowels are different. The consonants are identical. Every time you offer a sacrifice, you're providing and you're producing bridal food that's going to be placed on the bridal table, the nuptial table, which is the altar. And through the animal, you're being joined in one fire, in one spirit with the bridegroom of Israel, who is Yahweh.